All right. Let me go ahead and open this up. Admit all. Hey, everybody. Woo! We made it. This is the live panel of the Intensive Design
¿Está
Lab
bien?
alumni.
Ok,
Super
ok.
excited.
Dígame, ¿tiene alguna
Let me
pregunta
go
antes de que...
ahead and say, double check your mics. Um, and also, if you don't want to be on recording, which probably most people don't, that your camera, if your camera's off, you're not on the recording. That's the secret. And Christy, I'm gonna make you a host again. Thanks for all your help last time. Christy is one of my good friends here in St. Louis. We uh, directed runaway homeless youth programs together. So we've lived it all. Cool. Okay, welcome everybody. Let's do a quick intro. I know you all, but I can't wait for the folks who are here live to meet you as well. I'm just gonna call you off like how you are on my screen. So Michelle, you're first.
Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, everybody. So my name is Michelle Perella, and I have a practice called Your Best Life Therapy. And I empower folks to overcome past narratives, reconnect with their true happiness, true self to find happiness again, and live life authentically. And I do this primarily with women, LGBTQ plus folks, and survivors of suicide. And then I've just expanded through going through Stephanie's course to offering EMDR intensives and being able to bring that to my practice. And I am so excited and honored to be here.
I muted, but I was yang you. Did you say that you're in California?
I did not, I'm sorry. I am in Southern California in Santa Monica.
So pretty. Yay. Elizabeth.
Hey, everybody. I am so excited to be here. Stephanie, thank you for having me. I am Elizabeth Corbett. I own a small private practice in Asheville, North Carolina called Weller Counseling. I come with a background of 20 years working in critical care with premature babies. And then I went into community healthcare as a nurse and actually went back to school to serve that population. So what I do primarily in my practice is work with people who've experienced medical trauma or other significant events such as that. So I'm thrilled that I'm offering EMDR intensives now. It's been a life changer for me and for my clients. And just really excited to be here to learn and also to share what my journey's been like.
Thank you. And can I shout you out? You like integrate other things as well, right?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. So my practice is experiential, and so I offer equine therapy, and that's actually how I learned to do this type of work because I had the opportunity to work at a facility that offers multi-day retreats for veterans and other people who've experienced traumatic events. So that's what gave the fire to me to learn more about how to offer this to individuals. And I also do nature-based therapy. So a lot of outdoor work because we know what that does for our system and getting us regulated and ready to dive deep safely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nicole.
Good morning, everyone. It's morning over here for me. I am Nicole Osborne. My husband and I are both therapists, holistic therapists, and we co-own our practice, Milk and Honey Therapy. So we work with children, teens, and young adults. I primarily work with young adults and teens, and I work a lot with people pleasers and boundary issues, trauma. And then as a former athlete, I also work with athletes as well. I do a lot of holistic work, so talking about the mind, body, spirit. I also integrate walk and talk therapy. So the beautiful thing about living in Hawaii is that we get to walk by the water and by the beach. And so that's something that I integrate into my practice. And I added in intensives at the end of March, and it has been an amazing experience. And I'm so grateful for Stephanie for putting this all together and just the program that she offered. It was such a huge help for me.
Oh my gosh, Nicole, I want to come do an intensive in Hawaii with you. Listen, who does not want to travel to Hawaii? If you have to do therapy, that's where you want to be. And can I shout you out that you created an amazing like gift package that you share with your clients? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, so as part of my intensives, I'm a creative person, and so I wanted to add some personal touches. I'm big on like sensory experiences and helping clients ground. And so I created a holistic wellness kit that comes with my intensive package, and it includes a product that my husband and I created, which is our holistic therapy and wellness card deck, and our feelings wheel stickers. And then we also wanted to support other local Hawaiian businesses. And so we included things like herbal tea, body oil, room and body spray, mints, sour candy, some like sustainability products, and then like some little eucalyptus shower steamers. So that's a little bit about what we added into the kit.
It is so pretty. Like seriously, in the Facebook group, you should post the Instagram story because I was like, can I buy that for my clients? It's gorgeous.
I'll have to post it again. So thank you
Yes,
for the
please
shout
do.
out.
Post it in the Summit Facebook group.
Okay, I will.
Amber,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Amber Creamer and I have a virtual private practice based in Georgia, but I'm also licensed in California and Florida as well. And I'm a certified EMDR therapist, so my intensives are EMDR intensives, and my work centers around being able to help women that feel unfulfilled and really exhausted with their work be able to just enjoy the work that they're doing and the life that they live. And so my focus is from like a pre-verbal and an attachment lens. So being able to really dig deep into those like early wounds, so that the women that I work with are able to really show up as their full selves. Yeah, so that's what I do. And I've been formally offering intensives for about a year now, and Stephanie helped me launch my program.
Oh my gosh. I also just want to say what in one of our cohort calls, I don't know if you remember this, Amber, but we were like, what about when intensives works too good? Like it
Yeah.
works so much that now it's rippling and changing a lot of things in life that they weren't totally ready for. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that is also can be a factor when you offer them.
Yeah, super powerful work. So it's like you
Yeah.
have to be ready
Yeah.
for that.
Amazing. Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Dunn. I have a private practice just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm really excited to be here. I forgot to put that part in first because I'm really excited. And I am an IFS therapist, and I have all of these parts up, and they would all like to talk to you at once, which doesn't generally work very well. I really love doing deep work with people. I'm really passionate about that. I'm really passionate about IFS. And the intensives have been just such a great way to do that with folks. I do a lot of complex trauma work. I say sometimes that I work at the corner of, at the intersection of trauma and parenting. My practice primarily supports parents who have kids with high support needs, all sorts of different kids. And I started offering intensives in October. I did the course with Stephanie at the end of July. We had some major family medical mysteries, illnesses, crashes in there. And then I was able to finally start in October and have been offering them pretty consistently since then. And it has been great for my practice and for my clients.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Okay, yes. Share your websites in the chat. And I just invite you, if we have such a great crowd here today. I have some pre-submitted questions, but what do you want to ask these lovely therapists here? And I'll pull up my list as well while you're thinking. Well, I'll ask my first question. What is your this is always a nice way to get started. Wait, we have some questions coming up. What was the hardest part of jumping into intensives? I'll say, let's do both. Like, what made you want to do it? Because obviously it's hard, right? Like, changing anything is like, can be tricky. I like the status quo sometimes. So what made you want to do it? And then what was the hardest part or anything that surprised you? And panelists, you just hop on in.
I'll go ahead and jump in and say that what made me want to do it was because I do a lot of deep trauma work. I found conventionally structured sessions, which are centered on what we know of how insurance panels reimburse, even though I'm private pay, I had adhered to that structure of that 53 minutes to 60 minutes. I'll admit mine are always 60. And I just found that that was too limiting. And I knew because I do EMDR work, how much potential was there to be able to do deeper work if I had more time, and I hadn't quite figured out how to do that. I shared with you, Stephanie, that it wasn't until I was in the course that it hit me that I didn't know why I was working to the confines of a structure that was set by a system that I don't even adhere to. And so it really blew open everything for me to say, oh, this is exactly how I can build my practice.
Oop, I think you went on mute real quick.
Oh,
There you go.
the host muted me, sorry.
Oops.
So it really allowed me to expand, to open that up for myself, and then be able to open that up for clients. And I was so excited to be able to sit down and have that freedom to do the deeper work that I knew we could do.
Awesome. Elizabeth, yeah, feel free to hop in.
Okay. Yeah, so I like the last 6 months of 2023, I had this really deep contemplative period where I was thinking about where I wanted to go with my practice. I love the work I do. I came into it as a second career, like I mentioned, and I found myself being really invested with the work and with my clients, and also finding that I wanted to have a little bit more freedom to travel, to go see my children. I have 3 kids who live in other states. I have a mom that I care for. And so I found I was really struggling with that tug. And so intensives were a way for me to do this deep, powerful work with clients, and then to close it, maybe to have some follow-up care, but then to know that we had completed our work together. And so it allowed me to have the freedom at that time to go and do the things outside of my work that I really want to do without feeling that tug of, it felt like, am I abandoning my clients? So it was this real deep personal work that led me to intensives. And what made me realize I was going to do it is, Stephanie, it's something you said, and you've probably said it in the summit because it's so powerful. You said, if you can do a 50-minute session, you can do an intensive. And that just kind of blew my mind open. Like you were saying about the artificial confine of the 50-minute session, it just made me realize the only limit is me. I'm the only limit to the work I can do with my clients. So it's been so powerful personally, and also for my clients, to just be liberated from that model that existed only really in my mind because I'm a private pay practice.
Amazing. I'm like getting tears. Nicole, is there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say, the idea for me offering intensives happened, was it after I got trained in brain spotting phase 2 back in November? And I had asked the trainer, I was like, I forgot how I even came up with that. I asked the trainer, I was like, do you do intensives or longer sessions? And he was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was like, so how do you do them? And he gave kind of like this vague answer. And I was like, I need a little bit more structure. I need something to work with. Like what he said was great, but I was like, okay, well, you didn't really tell me the steps. And so it just happened, like, divine timing that in January, somebody had posted about intensives in your group. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I've been wanting to offer this. But just with intensive work, like I do brain spotting and EMDR and somatic work, and I like to work really slowly with clients. And I work with a lot of intellectualizers, and sometimes it takes them a long time to drop into their bodies. And so just to be able to have the space to like, safely explore their bodies and tap into that has just been amazing. And so I just feel like it was all just divine timing and alignment, like with me mentioning it during my brain spotting training and then finding your group. And then you're like, oh, I'm offering this program. I'm like, great, like this is exactly what I needed. And so that on top of just adding more financial freedom and also just knowing that I'm getting paid, what I need for the time and the effort that I'm putting in. So it's just been beautiful to add it to my practice.
That's awesome. I had a similar experience when I did EMDR training. I was like, so how do you do intensives? And they just said something, and I was like, well, I mean, I think there's probably more to it than that. Yes and no. Well, invite anybody else who wants to share. And I truly do want to bring out the question of like, what was the hardest part? Because I think a lot of people, you want to try something new, but you're also like, you can be freaked out or not totally sure about what is it going to require of you.
Yeah, so for me, what I realized is like with intensives, when I started doing them, it like really helped like continue that motivation to continue doing them because it's like clients showed up so differently for an intensive compared to like when we're doing the weekly work, because sometimes you can just get wrapped up in like whatever the flavor of the week is instead of like really digging deep into the stuff that's really at the core of why they're actually there. And so I really love like creating that space for that really deep intentional work. But for me, one of the hardest parts was like, where do I fit the intensive into my schedule? Because my work week is a 3-day work week. And I was for like the intensives that I'm wanting to offer, it's like a 3-day, 3-hour program or 3 hours a day for 3 days. And so I was like, if I have a full work week and I have a 3-day intensive, that means I'm working 6 days in a week. And I was like, that does not seem appealing to me. Like that is not in line with like the work that I'm wanting to do and like my energetic needs. And so for me, it was like, okay, if I'm really going to be all in on doing these intensives, that means setting aside 1 week in my calendar for intensive. So I see clients 3 weeks, my one-on-one clients 3 weeks out of the month, and then the last week of the month is strictly for intensive. So I can go ahead, book out the time that I need and, still have the space and the energy for the work that's being done.
I think for me, the hardest part was I am an insurance-based practice. And so trying to figure out how to offer intensives and how to do that ethically and how to do that in a way that I'm not going to get slapped with insurance fraud. That was a huge thing for me, trying to get all of that done. And then the paperwork, like, what do I need in my paperwork? That just drove me insane and had me stuck for quite a while. Once I got that once I figured all of that out, the actual doing the intensives was pretty easy, but the prep work and like the laying the foundation so that I could do it in a way that protected my clients, that protected me. We had all the paperwork, all my ducks in a row. That was the hard part for me.
And I'll hop on to what Amy was just saying. Amy, the paperwork, I agree. That was where I got stuck when I had thought about doing something like this. I thought about the paperwork that we had done for the retreats at the equine trauma center that I worked at, and it was overwhelming. They had an admin staff to manage it all. And I thought, how can I make this workable for my small private practice? And that is where doing this course with you, Stephanie, like that was the game changer because I didn't have to create these really ethical, beautiful documents. And I also didn't have to think about all the questions that I didn't even know were questions. So for me, that is what allowed me to move forward, to have a place to start, and then to, you know, to change it so that it met my needs and my offerings, but to know that I wasn't reinventing the wheel, that I had this really beautiful professional document that I could share with clients. So that was it for me, having the structure. You know, I definitely relate, like you were saying, Nicole, having the structure, like I need a little structure.
I'd love to piggyback off of this because I have always been the kind of person who is, I will do it myself. And I pride myself on that. And I would do the hard work. And I was proud of the things I created, whether it was my copy or my first or second website. And I think at this point, when I wanted to make this change, I finally admitted to myself that my time was better used in a different way, exactly as you said, not reinventing the wheel, not trying to bang my head up against the wall, trying to figure out how to create the documents. I'm sure I could have figured that out. It's a strength, but that was time and that costs me money. I really appreciated everything that your program had, Stephanie, because I could go in, I could say, this is great. It's perfectly curated, and I can tweak it and edit it the way that I need or that I want or that I prefer. And then I could hit the ground running so much faster than ever before every other time I did something by myself. And I think it's important to know about when to put down the need or the desire to constantly do everything independently and actually use the resources that are available out there.
Awesome. Man, we are having some conversation. I'm gonna ask Fayola to share her question, and then there's some questions in the chat too. So panelists, if you like to give written responses, feel free to do that in the chat. But if you're like, no, I'm all verbal, then we can focus on that too. So Fayola, you have your hand up. Tell us your question. And I know Stephanie had a hand up earlier too. Yeah. We'll go to you next.
Okay. Can you see me now? All right. I didn't want to be on screen. I'm stuffing my face right now. I think for the ones that are already started their practice or what have you, I would like to know when you are doing when you initially started up with your, anybody does marriage family therapy? That's the first one. Does any of you do marriage or counseling with couples in that realm?
It looks like Elizabeth is saying yeah.
Hi, Elizabeth. Okay.
Hey,
do you do a certain modality? I do Gottman for the most part, as long as they, if the ones that pay for it, I do Gottman. And so my question is that what modality are you using, or have you created your own for working with couples?
yeah, I love that
How
question.
do you
I'll hop
implement
in.
them in the intensives?
So I do relational life therapy, which is Terry Real, if anyone is familiar with him. So it works a lot with attachment, and then it looks at how have your attachment experiences impacted the human you are, and how does it impact how you are in relationship. So it's similar to Gottman, I believe, but it's really got that attachment focus, and he does a lot of that deep work in session with couples, which can be incredibly powerful. So that's the modality I use, and it actually works beautifully with intensives. What I do with my couples is I recommend 3 days. The first day is 4 hours, the second and third are 3 hours. And that allows us to meet, to talk about where they're at, what goals they want to work on, to get really solid. And then I do a one-on-one session with each person, the couple. I see each of them individually, and then we come back together at the close of the day. The second day is spent talking about their strengths and how can we enhance those and make them even more a part of your daily life. And that's really about deep connection and how can we find those moments in our busy lives. And then we work on what are your challenges and what might be underneath those challenges, right? And that's where we do some of the attachment work. And then the third day is mapping out What would you like for your future to be? You know, if you had that magic wand. And so they really create this roadmap of how they want to move forward with the tools they learned in the second day and with this deeper understanding of their attachment experiences and how it influences the lens that they see through and also that they receive feedback from their partner. So I love it. I've got chill bumps talking about it because I'm just getting into the couples work. I've been doing primarily EMDR, but I'm so passionate about it. And I'm really seeing traction with these couples who have felt so stuck. So I'm a huge fan of the couples work. And Stephanie, I would love for you to make a couples workbook because I am, Michelle, like you were saying, I'm doing it myself and I'm pulling out my hair.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is on my list.
That's
And
a
I'm ready
request.
again,
Well,
big time. Oh, I
well, thank
love
you for
it.
that. That was definitely enlightening. And just like you, I'm getting chill bumps because I'm like, oh, it sounds like what I do. And so
Yes.
I'm always like, oh man, we're at the end of session and I'm trying to like, and knowing that I can't go over. So I just I'm so passionate about it. And so just you talking about, I'm like, oh, well, that's really what I do, but it takes so long. And I'm like, sometimes I just want to be like, can we just be there already?
Yeah, I hear
So
you.
Exactly.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow. Yes, I love that. You had a question in the chat, Elizabeth. What does the other partner do when you're one-on-one with the other person?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And that was one of my questions when I started thinking about it. And Stacy, who I believe spoke earlier in the summit, she and I live in the same town. So we've done some talking and I asked her that question. What do they do? We happen to live in an awesome town, and where we have our intensives, I either offer them at this beautiful horse farm that has just acres that you can roam. So people will bring a lunch and they'll take a lunch. Or if I have it at my office, I'm in downtown Nashville. And so they'll take a walk, they'll go have a snack, they'll have a coffee. So they go do their own thing. I encourage them to journal if they want to, but really to just check in with where they're at and do what they need to do for that hour. So it's been like a really nice extra bonus for the person who's not in therapy to get to go take a walkabout or have some time to, to just settle into the space of what they're doing for the next 3 days.
Wow. Do anyone actually do it where maybe you take a weekend, or because I'm just thinking about you saying they go for a walk and things of that nature on their breaks, but in that time, have you ever worked with, or anyone has ever worked with multiple couples, even on a retreat at the same time doing something similar?
I don't know that anyone on this panel does, but intensive couple retreats are absolutely a thing. And they can be either like domestic or international. And that's a great way to partner with other therapists,
Right.
and scale your business. So that's a pretty cool idea.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to Stephanie. I know you've been waiting a sec.
Okay. This question was, I think her name is Nicole. When she was talking about her intensive and what she offers with the somatic piece of it, because I like that too. That's kind of my jam. I was curious, how do you incorporate the somatic piece in an intensive, and what type of somatic training did you receive?
So I first got trained in EMDR back in 2021, and then I got trained in brain spotting, and then I'm currently getting trained in somatic experiencing to become an SCP. And so during the intensive that I did, I'm very kind of like a go with the flow, flexible therapist, and so I just kind of just see what happens. And so what I did with my intensive initially. During the intake, I was planning to do grounding techniques at the end and just teach some emotional regulation skills. But we ended up just talking the whole time, just getting to know each other during the first part of the intensive. And then during the 3-hour intensive part, that's when I incorporated grounding. And I think that actually worked better because I told the client, like, hey, if you ever get overwhelmed at any point, like, you can come back to your body, or you can come back to these grounding techniques that we went over. And I have like a set list of like 13 different grounding techniques that I teach my clients. And so the client was like, already equipped to have these grounding techniques if they got overwhelmed at all. But during the session, I used a lot of brain spotting. And so how I broke up the session was we did the grounding techniques, then we took a 5-minute break, then we jumped into one of their brain spotting targets, then we took a 10-minute break for rest and integration. Then we did another brain spotting target, same thing, rest and integration. And then we did more somatic work and brain spotting at the end. And they felt so much better. And so I just, just kind of just go with the flow, follow the client's nervous system. If you're, a somatic based therapist, you can tell when they're dysregulated or overwhelmed. And so I just kind of just followed their body and their signals and their cues. And I checked in with them. I was like, hey, how you doing? Check in with your body. Like, do we need to take a pause? Do you need to take a break? So asking permission and consent. But that's how I typically work in my weekly sessions as well. So it's easy for me to integrate it into 3-hour sessions. Even though at first I was nervous, I was like, how am I going to do therapy for 3 hours? And it actually went by really fast. And I told myself, like, if I can sit through a 6-hour training, I can do 3 hours of therapy. That's just what I had to tell myself. And it all made sense. I was like, yeah, I've sat in trainings for 6 hours, multiple days. Like, it's just me, doing the work. But with somatic work, it's a lot less taxing for me personally than doing saying cognitively. And so even after the session, I had so much energy. I was like, all right, well, what's next to do? Like I thought I was gonna be super drained and tired, but me working somatically, it took the pressure off me to stay up here. So that's been my experience with somatic work.
All right, thank you. That makes sense because I do offer like 90-minute sessions for couples. I call them my high conflict couples. So if I can do 90 minutes with 2 people in the room,
You sure can. Yeah, that sounds like stressful to me. I'll
it
sit with
can
you for
be.
6 hours doing somatic work instead of that.
Thank you.
I think somatic folks often have that question of like, well, what is it going to look like when we're in? Because it feels so long. But I love what you said, Nicole, that you just tune in and you follow, and everything that comes up, you just follow, and you just go deeper and deeper, and it's amazing. Okay, Sarah.
Hi, I have a question about scheduling. I'm in the process of decreasing my weekly caseload to try to be able to make space for EMDR intensives. And while juggling that, I'm trying to figure out how to balance the two. And I'm curious how those of you who are in that space are scheduling that.
Good question. Amber, you said a little bit about that. Ooh, Michelle. Yeah.
One of the things that I did is I have clients that I see every other week, and I ended up adjusting my schedule to shift them all onto the same day. I also started to have folks graduate a lot, and so I ended up with gaps in my schedule, and I just told folks I needed to shift them to a different time and day, and I gave them options that worked for my schedule. I think one of the things that I often see is people struggle with this concept because of personal boundaries. We will often give of ourselves to accommodate the needs of others, but that is not how I structured my private practice from the very beginning. I am very structured in that I know what days I work, what hours, and then I always use Fridays for admin days or personal things for myself. So what I ended up with was Wednesdays opened up for me. That's my every other week schedule. And then if I want to, I make the choice to put folks on that Friday. So I have done a 6-hour intensive. I talked with you, Stephanie, about this concept of like, well, why is it only 3 hours? Why is there any reason? And we had a conversation. You said, no, that's just my preference. And I had a client coming from an hour and a half away. They were only going to be able to do one day. And so I booked them on a Friday, and I was able to make that choice with my schedule. So that's given me the flexibility. I am not going to be able to do weekends. I am not going to be able to do evenings. I have 6-year-old twins and a family, and I want to try to pretend I have a life as I'm newly discovering, right? As my kids get older. So I'm very strict on the boundaries for myself with my schedule. And this is how I've tweaked it, is just putting folks in places that work best for my practice.
And I would say, like, just be creative. Like, you really don't know, like, what's going to work for you until you really just try it out. So for me, it's like I tried, having my clients, my normal clients in the morning, and then having an intensive block in the afternoon, or doing it vice versa. So, because typically my intensives are 3 hours, my morning block is 3 hours, my afternoon block is 3 hours, so it fit perfectly. So it's just about, just seeing like what you can do. But I would say like the most important part, like Michelle was saying, is like have your boundaries, because you can burn out bringing this into your practice if you're not careful about maintaining what it is you need to care for yourself so that you can really do this work.
I can add one more thing. I might have said it somewhere, but I had my weekly clients. I transitioned everybody to 90 minutes every other week. And I told them I 1,000% believe that we can do more in 90 minutes uninterrupted than we can every single week for 1 hour. And I just said, can we just like try it? Are you willing to give it a try like one time? And for everybody, they preferred it. It was one person who just had like a lot of crisis of the week where that wasn't going to be workable. And that was fine because then I just fit them in wherever. But that changed my schedule in a huge way and like opened up a lot of possibilities. And with like the way I set my fees, it wasn't a massive like financial loss either, because the intensives bring in so much. It wasn't, it worked out really well. So hope that's helpful. Cool. Ah, Harry, nice to see ya.
Hey, so thank you everybody for all the sharing. I wanted to ask about marketing, and I'm just starting to write my web page right now, and I do the copywriting, and I'll have someone design it for me. But so this is a two-part question. Is I wonder if you have any kind of tips for copywriting, and what you felt was very important to include in your web page, and also number two. Just in general, what are some tips or things to be aware of during kind of the marketing process for your intensives? Thank you.
I could answer part of that question. So with marketing, like SEO is huge. And so what I discovered was a lot of people don't offer intensives. And so when I did my website copy, we ranked #1 like almost instantly. And so I would say focusing on SEO, and there's some really basic things that you can do. You don't have to do like this crazy in-depth thing. Like for example, in a lot of our copy, we wrote like therapy intensives in Honolulu, and we kind of just threw that in, kind of like naturally and organically into our website. I would say, I don't know if you're big on social media, but that's how I was able to grow my practice really quickly. Not specifically intensives because I'm still working on that. And then I also use ChatGPT for certain things, and so sometimes I can overthink and be like, oh, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to write. And so I just threw some things into ChatGPT, and then I reworked it and put it on my website. And so for me, that helped me get like unstuck and also find like some language. And I also think about like, okay, like who's an ideal client? Like who needs the intensive? It's somebody who, like Stephanie has said in her programs, in her offerings, like who is it that needs it? They want relief now, they want to feel better. They may not have time for weekly therapy. And so just really, again, thinking about your ideal client and who intensives would serve best. And so I would say those are the biggest things for me that worked.
Thanks.
And for me, what I did is I pulled like some of the information and content from other pages on my website and other specialty pages to put that in different phrasing and things like that onto my intensives page, because the content was already attracting my ideal client from my other pages. So it was like, okay, well, now this is just tailoring it to the intensive work. So it's like, what does that look like for that particular client that's ready to invest, that's ready to do this deep work in this way? And so that made it a little bit easier. So it wasn't like I had to reinvent the wheel completely, but it was just kind of adapting that stuff.
Amber's website is great if you want an example for an intensive page and an adjunctive intensive page.
I agree. I echo that. I checked out Amber's. It's gorgeous.
And she has it. Oh, you're so smart. You have it in your Zoom profile, hellolifecounseling.com. Yay. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I would just add also, and this is something I learned from Patrick Casal, who I believe spoke earlier in the week. I worked with him as a business coach when I started my practice years ago, and we talked about marketing because I had some real barriers. And he said, think about the people that you want to work with, the people that you think you can serve well, and how are you going to let them know that you're doing this work, right? If you don't tell people what you're doing, they're never going to be able to find you. And so I think really having kind of an elevator speech, right, that you can share with colleagues, that you can share with existing clients, just having a story that's really authentic to you, I think it's really important. And I think we forget that piece. I will say that I took Stephanie's course in January and I rolled things out in the end of January, the first week of February. And within 2 weeks, I had 5 people sign up for intensive. So like people are really resonating. It's mind blowing. Yeah, it's resonating with them. And it was also just letting people like here is an offering that might really work with your lifestyle or your needs or your accessibility requirements. So it was phenomenal. It was completely unexpected. My goal was to do 3 this year. And I think telling people what you're doing, it almost just takes on a life of its own. So like trust that this is work that I think is really relevant now for many, many people. And if they knew it was there, they would jump on it.
Yes, I'll add to that, Elizabeth. This is a template in the course, but every single time someone reaches out to you for therapy, just let them know. I offer weekly, bi-weekly. I also offer an intensive. This is what it is, because people don't know and they might prefer it. So a ton of therapists in the program are shocked when people are like, "Oh, I want to do an intensive," and it was like the easiest thing you ever did. It was just a line in an email. So I want to shift. Harry, I hope that's helpful. And I know you have a really solid niche. So I think you're gonna have a good success with that. We have a good amount of people who want to hear a little bit more from Amy about insurance. So if you feel comfortable kind of sharing your process and what you come to, I'll mention I also have a guide that I created about intensives and insurance that talks about it a couple different ways people handle it. So I'll make sure that's in the Facebook group.
Well, and I'm one person and have handled it a couple of different ways. I'm actually in the process of changing the way I've done it. So when I first started doing intensives, I kind of took the tact of an intensive is not a 90837. If you guys file insurance, you know what that is. It's the 53-minute and the dreaded plus sessions. It is a whole different thing. And that is how I am viewing it. I understand that the big insurance people may or may not agree with me. But I am very careful that when I bill for intensives, I do not ever for anyone put that code in there. I also am very clear, I do not provide super bills for intensives because I feel it is strongly that I need to be very internally consistent about this. If it is not a 90837 for my insurance clients, then it is not a 90837 for somebody who would be filing a super bill. So I'm very, very consistent. I have been very, very consistent about that. I have kind of come to the decision that is probably putting me at too much risk because I do have clients. I do have one client in particular who's going back and forth between weekly that is paid for insurance and then intensives that are not. I have decided recently that I'm no longer comfortable with that. So as of this week, actually, I'm stopping doing that. And you are either, I'm filing for insurance and we are doing 55-minute sessions, or I'm not filing insurance and you can do anywhere from 55 to 3 hours. You tell me what you want to do. But it's going to have to be one or the other. So I just had kind of gotten to it. I've only had 2 clients that I have done the back and forth with. One client, I'm very, very comfortable with it. The other client is the one that gave me pause. There have been some things that I'm like, ooh, and I just felt like I needed a little bit more distance and separation. Somebody was asking about paperwork. It is pretty much the same. I have opt-out forms for everyone anyway for insurance. If they are coming to me and I don't take their insurance, so everyone has to sign those. I just have a couple of extra forms. When I was doing the back and forth, I had a couple of extra forms that were labeled Blue Cross Blue Shield and intensive, where it was the good faith estimate stuff, and it was the opt-out form to make sure that I had all of that. So that was really the only difference. It is a little bit dicey. I will say if you do put a 90837, you are putting yourself at risk. Insurance is coming back and popping people and saying basically you can only charge them for 1 hour. And by the way, you did it 6 months ago, so you can't charge them anything now. And they're having to I've heard horror stories of people having to refund their clients. So if you are going to do that, I would absolutely say make sure that you do not have that code in there, because that could potentially bite you in the end. Whether or not the way I do it is perfectly safe, I don't know. It is clear as mud, just like everything else with involving insurance. And I'm actually now exploring splitting and having 2 businesses, one that does intensives and other out-of-network work, and one that does the insurance-based work. I work with a lot of families that have children with disabilities. A lot of my families pay nothing to see me because their kids' medical needs are so high, they max out their insurance in like a month. And then all of their sessions with me are free. And because of the way a child having a disability impacts a family, oftentimes at least one parent is underemployed because they are running this kid back and forth to therapy. They are doing extra medical appointments. Oh, you are going to have to come pick up your kid at school for behavior. So the reality of that, I really want to be able to serve this community. The other reality is I am a member of this community. My son, I have 2 sons. One is autistic and has some significant support needs. My kids are both teenagers. My autistic son also needs to be supervised more like he is a preschooler. He will come knock on my door when I am working, and he'll be knock, knock, knock. If mommy doesn't answer, mommy is working. Knock, knock, knock. You should go find the other adult in the house. Knock, knock, knock. Mommy's not answering. So we have a lot of that. But it also, because I also have to, he's going to a special school, I have to drive him. I'm doing car line every afternoon. I have a lot of restrictions on me as well and my time. So intensives for me have been great. I also have some executive functioning challenges and invisible disability stuff where I find the only way that I can maintain my sanity and do my schedule when I'm doing a 55-minute session, I have to block 90 minutes because I do the session, I immediately do the paperwork, file the insurance, collect the payment, and then move on. So for me, when I have a 3-hour intensive, first of all, I get paid my cash pay rate, which is significantly higher. I don't have to mess with insurance. And in 3 hours and 30 minutes, I have that done in my note, whereas it takes me much, much longer to do that with my insurance-based folks or my 55-minute folks. So for me, it has been a lot more efficient and a better use of my time because my sessions are very, very limited. I would think I was maxing out before I did intensives at 13 hours. And I think now I max out at 16. Like that is all I can fit into my schedule.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy. I know it is, like you said, clear as mud when it comes to intensives and insurance. And I've talked with people who've been doing it for years and people who are trying to figure it out more recently. And so in that guide, I really tried to capture the perspectives and the pros and cons of each way that you could potentially go about responding. At the end of the day, of course, we want to offer like the best services to our clients and let them determine what format they want for their therapy. So I'll link that again in the Facebook group. And it's a topic we talk about all the time. because we need support with it. Okay, let me see. We are nearly at the end of our time, which is kind of sad. I always want these to go on longer. Let me check here. And if there's a question in the chat you want to highlight, I see people are typing answers too. Oh, this is a good one. Someone said, can you share how much experience you had by the time you started intensives? I imagine many of us here have a fear of like, am I ready? I hear that a lot. Like, do I have to have a certain training or be in the field for a certain number of years to be able to offer an intensive?
I'll go ahead and jump in and say that throughout the course of my life, both personally and professionally, I don't think there's ever been a single thing I thought I was ready for. I am a high achiever. I am somebody who keeps going. And, you know, I've often thought, and I see this with the female entrepreneurs that I work with as well, and we are all entrepreneurs. It takes a mindset shift to understand and believe that about yourself. But I think I see a lot of us thinking we always need to keep going and doing and learning and growing. That's a great asset and it's wonderful, but I don't know that in anything I've ever really felt ready. I took EMDR training and I still didn't feel ready. I took Stephanie's course and I still didn't feel ready. But sometimes what you just do is do, and you just take action. And I think that's what validates to me and to the folks I've worked with that we are ready. And so, no, I wasn't ready when I did my first intensive. I didn't feel it, but then I did it and I realized I was. And with that, you get that momentum and it builds and builds and grows and grows. And that's what validates and tells you you are ready. You can do this. And you already, if you are a new graduate, you are new to private practice, I tell folks this all the time, you have a lot of education and knowledge and understanding beyond what you ever believe. We live in a society that tells us it's not enough. It will never be enough because we want to keep growing and learning. But you already did a lot to get to where you are, and you come with a lot of wealth and knowledge and skills.
Thank you, Michelle.
I can speak to this one too, if that's okay, because I'm still an associate level clinician. I'm doing them. And I'm in a state where I'm allowed to own my own practice as an associate. I opened during the pandemic, and that's exactly what I did. I was in practice for a little over 2 years when I did this. And it's been really life-changing for my practice and my clients. Like, I cannot tell you like how much I love doing this. And I hate with my insurance clients because a lot of them are restricted by they cannot afford my fees for a 3-hour intensive. I can't do it with them unless I pro bonoed them, which I can't do that either. But like, it is so powerful. If I could do this, just this, I would. It's such a game changer.
I love it. With our final kind of like time here. Wait, let me check one more question. Oh, yeah. Okay. With our final time here, I'm wondering, speakers, panelists, can you give folks maybe just a final thought about encouragement about intensives, or maybe something that you wish someone would have told you when you were kind of considering whether to take this path or not?
I'd say just do it. Just jump in and do it. And do it badly. Just do it. I started, it's Stephanie's advice. This was one thing that she said in our training that I loved. She was like, start with a current client. And I was fortunate enough, I had a client who I was very, very comfortable with. And right before I took Stephanie's class, I was like, oh, I'm considering doing this new thing. She's like, I'm in. And I was like, oh, okay. Whoa, hold up. Because I took Stephanie's class and I thought I was going to start offering them the next month. Unfortunately, I spent the next month in and out of the hospital with my son. And then I also did my IFS level 2 training in there, and then got really sick. And then my father-in-law died. Like, it just did not stop. But when I finally offered an intensive, I did, I think my first 3 intensives were with this client. So, and I'm still doing intensives with this client. It for me was a comfortable way to see like, can I do this? And then once I saw it and I saw like how much I loved it and how much my client benefited, it's now easy for me to authentically say to someone, I really do think if you do the intensive rather than the 55-minute sessions, you are going to see so much more progress. And I have this authority that comes from like, I believe what I'm saying. And I'm not saying something that Stephanie told me. I mean, she did tell me, but like, it's my own, it is my own authentic. I believe it and I know it because I've seen it happen. And that will also help you in your marketing. People have been asking about marketing. I market like people that reach out to me now for 55-minute sessions. I'm booked. All I have is intensive spots. So I'm like, hey, I don't have any, but I do have these if you're interested. And sometimes they say, okay, tell me more. And other times they're like, no, I can't because I needed to use my insurance. But I have gotten a fair number of clients that way.
I'll hop in and say that for me, I think just getting really clear about why you want to do an intensive, right? What about it speaks to you? Is it that you can dive deep with your clients? Is it that you can have a work-life balance that works for where you're at in your life? Is it the financial freedom? What about intensives works for you? For me, the money mindset was a big piece. I'm a private practice. I don't take insurance. I knew that coming out of working in the medical world for 20 years, I knew I just didn't want to take that on. But it was also really important to me that it was accessible to everyone. And so my practice, even before intensives, 30% of my clients are pro bono or sliding scale. And I set my fees so that I can do that. And so that lets me be in alignment with my values. And it also allows me to offer intensives to anyone who's ready to do the work, right? I always have the space for them. So that has been incredibly powerful for me to realize I don't have to be part of the industry that stresses me out, to be honest with you, right? Insurance industry, it just stresses me out. I don't want to go there. But I'm also able to provide these services to a lot of people that maybe couldn't afford it if they were paying out of pocket. So that aligned with me and I believe in it. Like you were saying, Amy, I believe in the work. I believe in how I'm offering the work and I believe in the model. And it comes through when you talk to people. So I say, go for it. Just try it. You've got nothing to lose. You've got nothing to lose and so much to gain.
My final thought is like, just be creative and just allow yourself to just be open to where this process can lead you, because with intensives, like we've said before, it's like we're really stepping out of that traditional way of doing therapy that has been based on insurance companies and moving into a space where we can really focus on like what our clients need. And it can really connect you with like that fire that really got you into this field to begin with and really doing that like really transformative work. So just allow yourself to be open to like the possibilities of like what your program can look like. Because honestly, the sky's the limit. You can incorporate, different holistic methods into your program and do so many creative things with it. So just allow yourself to just embrace that.
Yeah, I would agree with what everybody said. Just do it. What do you have to lose? It's really needed work. Like in the world that we live in right now, everything feels just like a lot. And so people need relief. They're seeking this, especially for me working with BIPOC clients, like they need this work. So if you're a BIPOC therapist, and just any therapist, but specifically BIPOC therapist, like the work is really needed, just after years of the pandemic and racism and everything that has just gone on the past couple years and then recent events in the Middle East. So just do it. We're doing life-changing work and just imagine being able to support just people where they really need it and they want it, and how that's going to impact how they show up in their lives, and that's going to impact other people. The same thing with weekly therapy, like it's a trickle effect. Like healing people so that they can, you know, show up better for other people and also heal others as well. So just do it. You have nothing to lose. What's the best that could happen? What's the worst that can happen? You know, good old EBT. But yeah, just go ahead and do it.
You can't hear me in the background, like laughing over here. I don't know if we got everybody. Give me a thumbs up if you gave your final thought, or maybe give me a thumbs up if you still want to give a final thought. Michelle, are you good? Okay, I feel like yes, you kind of like started us on that trajectory. Okay. And it's like exactly on the hour. When does that ever happen? It never happens to me. Yay. Okay. Thank you, panelists, for being here and sharing your story. They are in the Facebook group, the Summit Facebook group, if you want to connect more. And I'll make sure to go through the questions in the chat if there's any we didn't get to, and get some responses out. But I just appreciate you so much for being here, everybody. It's an important conversation. We're gonna take a quick break, and then the scholarship announcement is live in the Facebook group at 1:30 Eastern. And then we start the grand finale training. That's Cultivate Abundance, Elevate Your Income, Energy, and Impact with Therapy Intensives. So, yay! I can't wait. All right. Take good care, everybody. See ya.